It's a little after 2, but it's still 2 o'clock, which means it's time for Tax Talk Tuesdays at 2. And if you guys can hear me, can you let me know that you can hear me? Don, can you tell me who's on?
Yeah, I'm still trying to find if I can get a hold of your online.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. Who's joining me?
You got one from Clifton Webb.
Okay, Clifton Webb. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. My name is Beverly Winstead, and I am a tax resolutions attorney. But before I get, go into who I am, today we're going to talk about fact versus fiction. And these are questions that we often are asked when maybe it's on the street, or we may get a phone call from a family member, or friends. They often call us and just ask us questions. And so today I was thinking about this topic because I was having a conversation with a family member and working on his tax return, and he began to ask me a couple of questions about whether or not he should report some of the jobs that he does on the side. So today I have a special guest that's going to be joining me. His name is Donovan Ham. Come on, Donovan.
Absolutely.
So he's joining us today. He's on spring break, my law clerk. And Don, you want to tell him a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. My name is Donovan Ham. I'm a third year at the University of Maryland School of Law. I've been working with Beverly for at least two semesters at least.
Two
and then,
semesters, a year. And
Beverly's brought me on to be working at the firm, and originally from Florence, South Carolina. So it's good to run into some other Southerners around here in Maryland.
All right. So a little bit of background about who I am. Beverly Winstead. I'm a tax resolutions attorney here located in the Washington, D.C. area, and actually in Laurel, Maryland. And I just like to quantify, because I know we have people watching from all over the United States and even some abroad. So what I do as a tax resolutions attorney is that I help people that have disputes with the IRS, all right? So you could owe the IRS a bunch of money, and we try to negotiate settlements with the IRS. Or you could want to, you could be going through an audit. We represent you in an audit, and or you could have a dispute and you want to challenge the IRS and tax court.
Yeah.
So, do we have anybody joining us right now that we want to give a shout out to?
We have plenty of people joining in. We first we had Clifton come in, and Maurice and Bernie, and a lot of other people joining in here.
Okay.
So we'll make sure we thank everybody for showing up and being a part of the Facebook Live.
Yeah, I know today is such a yucky day, particularly here in Maryland. We have ice and snow. So for those of you who are joining us, we appreciate you taking the time to join us. Okay? So fact versus fiction. Let's go ahead and get started.
Absolutely.
All right, so I'm going to pose this question to you, Donovan.
Okay. Sounds good.
Let's say, I get money from maybe washing cars on the side, or let's say cutting the grass occasionally. Like, do I have to report that money on my tax return?
So, like every legal question, it kind of really depends, right? But typically, like the law says, all income is taxable income.
Right.
So, if it's income that you made either through washing cars or something like that, if it's income, you need to report it to the IRS. Otherwise, they may come after you for that money.
All right. So this is what we call our side hustle money, right? So the Internal Revenue Code, and I want to give you the code section because it's not enough for me just to tell you, and you not be able to go back and reference it. So the code section is Internal Revenue Code section 61, and it says that all income is taxable from whatever source derived, right? So if you are cutting grass, if you are cutting hair on the side, we call it our side hustle, right? Our side hustle gig, right? Even in all honesty, if you are, selling drugs, right?
I wouldn't recommend doing that.
Right.
But if you're making money from it,
right, it's income.
It
right?
is income.
So if you look at a lot of the, great gangsters who went to prison, it's because they had unreported. It was the IRS that put them in jail, right? It was Al Capone went to jail for tax evasion. So even though he had illegal activity going on, the law still requires you to report that income.
Yeah,
right?
because it's taxable income.
Because it's taxable income, right? So you want to look at IRC section 61. So the next thing is maybe a couple of weeks ago, I also talked about the difference between a hobby versus a business, right? So the question is, because the treatment of a hobby versus a business is different, right? So if you are a hobby, then your losses are only deducted to the extent that you have hobby income.
Yes.
If you're a business, then you can deduct the full amount of the losses. So whether something is a hobby versus a business really has to do with whether or not you really had an intent on making money.
Right. Yeah, making a profit.
Right. So IRS wants to see within the first 3 to 5 years that you are generating a profit, and that's how you distinguish between a hobby versus a business in a lot of cases, not all cases.
Yeah, absolutely. It looks like we have 5 people in the chat right now in your Facebook Live. So if anybody has any questions, please make sure you drop a question into the comment section. We'll make sure we address it either while the Facebook Live is going on or at the end of the stream, so we can make sure we answer all the questions if possible.
Right. So then the next thing we're looking at, let me ask you another question.
Absolutely, go ahead.
All right. Oh, and I used to hear this all the time. This is like so big for me. Many of you know I played college basketball. And I remember when I graduated, I was contemplating whether or not I was going to go overseas and play somewhere, whether it's Italy, France, or
yes.
And the reason why it was so attractive to me is because I remember hearing from like some of my teammates or some people that were already overseas. They were saying, yeah, Beverly, if you go overseas and you play, like all that money you earn over there is tax free. And I was like, wow, I could go over there. At that time, I think the average starting salary for a woman was maybe like $25,000.
Not a lot of money, but still income that may not in your head been not taxable.
Right. Speaking in my head, I had this like vision that I would go get a contract for $25,000. All of it was tax free. I would come back, put it in a bank account, and have $25,000 in my bank account.
Yes.
So I was just like, yo, this is what I want to do.
Not bad.
Not bad, right? For a season,
yes.
We're talking about maybe a summer, a couple of months. Fact or fiction?
Definitely fiction. And I'd say that 2 things. I'm not sure that you're probably good enough to play overseas ball.
Oh, that hurts me to my heart, Don.
But if you do go overseas, cross seas into a foreign nation, and you are collecting compensation for things that you're doing, and even compensation for, let's say, rental property or something like that, that's income. And that's income overseas that the Internal Revenue Service will want to know about. And just like the last question, it's income, which means it's taxable income.
All right, so I'm going to give you the code section. The code section is Internal Revenue Code Section 862. And it says essentially that U.S. citizens are taxed on their worldwide income.
Yes.
So for those of you who know me and know I can play basketball, please comment in this section that my J is wet, so he will understand that my J is wet.
Haven't seen it, so I can't believe it.
Oh, I'm gonna have to take him. I'm gonna have to school this little young boy right here. Okay. All right. So all income, worldwide, is taxed. But one of the ways that even though it's taxed worldwide, there's something called the foreign income exclusion.
Yes.
So in certain instances, and I don't want to get too in depth with that, but in certain instances you can exclude some of your earnings from income.
Yes.
Right, if you earn it abroad. And then the other part of that is if you there's also something called a foreign tax credit, right? So that if you pay taxes in a foreign country, that you get the benefit of the taxes that you pay.
Yes.
Right.
So it's kind of like a benefit. Make sure if you are paying your taxes over there and there's not like some type of treaty or anything like that, that you can report it back to the IRS and your 1040 for a tax credit.
Right. And we've worked with professional basketball players playing overseas before, right? And in preparing their tax returns. And one of the hardest parts, I will say, in doing a return of that magnitude really is, when you're dealing with the conversion rates, right? So if a person is over in Europe,
Yeah.
and they are getting paid in euros, then there's just a conversion that has to occur.
Yes.
Right?
And you were saying, so you're getting paid in euros or pesos, something like that. That conversion.
Right, we have to convert it
US
back
dollars.
to US dollars.
Got it,
Right. Okay? All
Yeah,
right,
sounds
cool.
right.
All right, so let's turn to the third thing, fact versus fiction.
Mm-hmm.
The third thing. Okay. Now, this is something we often get asked about is whether or not I have a business,
Mm-hmm.
you know, this is the scenario I have. I have a business. Whether or not I can hire my child
Yes.
to work for me.
Mm-hmm.
All right, fact versus fiction.
So you can hire your children to work for you. Kind of really depends on what the state is, right? And like for the state of Maryland, you have to be a certain age, and you have to get like sort of a permit or something like that. It depends on the type of work that they're doing, but yeah, typically you can pay your child for labor that they're doing. I think you know a little bit more about that than I do.
Right.
particularly.
So one of the things in preparing for our Facebook Live today is that I went to the Department of Labor and Licensing and Regulation website.
And that's DLLR here in Maryland.
Yeah.
Okay.
In Maryland, it's called DLLR.
Yeah.
And every state has a Department of Labor and Licensing. And I read the rules to see whether or not you can hire a child. And in Maryland, if your child is between ages 14 and 17, they can work as long as they have a work permit. Now, there are certain restrictions upon how many hours they can work or the days of the week that they can work depending on their age. But one of the things that we do often is work with small businesses that have the cash flow, that can afford to pay their child, that, you know, we kind of encourage them to do it. So you're asking, the next question is, well, what is it that my child can do, right? They're only 14 years old, they're only 15 years old. Like, they don't know enough about the business.
Are they allowed to go out and operate heavy machinery or something like that?
Right. Well, we know some things they absolutely can't do.
Yeah.
But absolutely they can help your business, right?
Mm-hmm.
So some of the things that they could do would be social media, right?
Yeah.
Social media, kids know social media more than adults in a lot
Facebook,
of instances,
Twitter,
right?
Instagram, all
So
these
if you're talking about growing your business, why not hire your child, pay them for, you know, $5,000, and have them run your marketing campaign, your social media campaign,
Yes.
right? Another thing that your child could do possibly would be what? Administrative tasks like
filing, copying.
copying. For those of you who have receipts,
Data entry.
Data entry. They can help with probably getting the receipts, the things together for the bookkeeper that you're working with, for the accountant that you're working with. So you absolutely want to, if you have the ability to hire your child, I think it's a wonderful opportunity for two reasons. Number one, it teaches them responsibility. And then number two, it's a way that, you know, you could actually pay them. They earn money, and in turn, they could pay for some of their extracurricular activities.
So, Bev, we got a few questions here, and we interrupt you before we get back on track. But could we clarify what the ages are again for the state of Maryland, paying your children for work, and are those the only ages that you mentioned before? I take that to mean if they're older than that age range that we talked about, can you still pay them and potentially count them as a dependent or something like that?
Okay, great question. So the first part of that is, let me repeat the ages. And I have the mini fact sheet right here from...
And you found that where again?
And I went to just their website, DLLR.org.
Mm-hmm.
And on their website, they have information about what age children can begin working in Maryland. And it's age 14. But they have to have a work permit. They have to apply for a work permit.
Okay.
And then again, there's restrictions on the amount of hours that they can work, right?
Gotcha.
The second part of that is, what if they're over 17?
Yeah.
So, and can you still claim them as a dependent?
Yes.
Right. So the question is, it depends. Well, the answer is, it depends. We love answering questions with questions, right?
Very typical answer.
All right. So it depends. And it really depends on what the dependency test is.
Okay.
So yeah, sure, absolutely, you can hire your child at age 18, even at age 30, right?
Yeah.
But there's special rules when it comes down to whether or not you can claim them as a dependent. So one of the rules is really whether or not they qualify for either to be considered your qualifying child or your qualifying relative. So a child can still meet the dependency test if they make less than $4,050 for to be considered a qualifying child, right? But if they don't meet if you pay them over $4,050, right, you could still claim them as a dependent under the qualifying relative test.
Mm-hmm.
And under the qualifying relative test, 4 things have to be met, right?
Yeah.
They have to meet the relationship test,
yeah,
meaning that they biologically are related to you.
Mm-hmm.
The age test, which is 19 through 23.
Yes.
Right. So if they're in college and you want to hire them,
still pay them. Yeah.
You can still pay them. And the third one is it support?
The support test, yeah.
The support test.
And
Maybe
then
support.
and then
Residency. Okay. Support test. Meaning that, the residency test is probably the easiest one, right? They
Yeah.
have to live with you, or if they're away at college, they're still considered to be living with you.
At your home address. Yeah.
At your home address. And then the fourth one is the support test. And that just means that they cannot have provided more than 50% of their own support.
And that, when you say that, you mean the
child
or the
child
dependent? Yeah.
is a dependent.
Gotcha.
Right.
Okay. One more question is: can we set up a retirement account for them? I guess as an employee.
That's a very good question. You know.
And you can blame Brent for that question. So I don't know if you want to answer that question.
Brent Simpson. Okay, I'm gonna take a chance to acknowledge Brent because
Absolutely.
he's always on this Facebook Live. And Brent is a wonderful business strategist. If you are looking to grow your business and you are looking for someone that can really help you and kind of walk with you through your growth phases, Brent is a wonderful business strategist. Brent, if you want to put your contact information and your phone number in the comment section, then people will know how to get in touch with you. So the question is whether or not you can set up a retirement account for your child. So again, it depends, right? It depends on the type of retirement account that possibly you're considering. If you're talking about a 401k or IRA, even though they have certain restrictions in terms of how much you can contribute.
Mm-hmm.
But the general answer is yes,
okay.
you can, but there are restrictions. And a lot of times, like, we don't work with that side. We normally refer a client, a small business who has a business and wants to set up a retirement account. We will refer them out to one of our strategic alliance partners and work hand in hand
Gotcha.
to get their retirement account set up.
Gotcha. Okay. And that's all the questions we have for
Okay.
right now, sir.
That's all the questions? Okay, so if you have any other questions concerning fact versus fiction, feel free to inbox us. I want to leave my contact information with you again. My phone number to my office is 301-306-1234. If you are a low-income taxpayer, many of you know I also run the tax clinic at the University of Maryland. If you're a low-income taxpayer, low income meaning $30,000 or less for a single person, $40,000 or less for a 2-person household, then we are now still accepting cases. So if you have a dispute or a question about maybe your taxes or your tax account, feel free to give us a call. The number at the law school is 410-706-3295. Again, 410-706-3295.
Absolutely.
Okay. Do you have any final thoughts?
No, I will say this. Don't forget your taxes are going to be due
Yes.
by April 15th. So make sure that if you're not going to make it, that you get a hold of Beverly or someone to try to help you make sure you get your taxes in or not file for an extension.
Absolutely. You want to file for an extension because if you don't, then and you owe, you'll end up paying unnecessary penalties. And to me, that's just stupid money you're giving away to the IRS.
And it's just not only that, it's not only the penalties, but the interest as well that comes with nonsense like that. You can end up owing $2,000 to $3,000 more than what your actual liability was.
Right.
So make sure you get on top of those things, and if you have any questions, this is the one we need to talk to.
Okay. Thank you guys so much for joining in. Appreciate you.